Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for the State Captain Kickoff Call. We're going to be going over a lot of information on what state captains are really doing this year. And especially this year, your role is incredibly important. We have over 780 people registered as of today. So we definitely need all the state captains we can get, and we really appreciate everything you're doing, and I will hand it over to the state captains.
Hey, everybody. I'm Noelle. I'm joined with Brad as well as Carrie, and we are leading the state captains committee. We have recruited you all to help us represent each state. And so ultimately, we want to start tonight with a little bit of information about what you'll need to know and what we're going to be asking you to help us with along the way. Carrie, Brad, did you guys want to introduce yourselves, or let's just keep it moving?
I'll just say hi and thank you all for being here.
I can also say hi and thanks for being here too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can move on to the next slide. So obviously tonight's purpose is to give you an injection of information about what to expect as a state captain, but also kind of what to expect for the day so that you can help your folks in your home state show informed, really having a great understanding of what to expect. We will go over kind of the timeline, what your role will be, how your groups will be organized, and then of course we're going to give you some materials and resources and try to present it in a succinct and organized fashion, of course. We will also have some frequently asked questions and some Q&A towards the end. So Carrie, Brad, and myself, we are kind of leading the committee. And we've got Andrea, who's helping us on the scorecard. Julie and Ebeth are kind of our fearless leaders on the volunteer committee. And then Aisha is helping us from Resolve to make sure that we are organized and have all of this information pulled together for you. Within the state captain kind of umbrella, we have some folks who have stepped up to help us lead what we'll probably call kind of regional teams of state captains. And so those folks are Maya, Tiffany, Kyla, Lisa, Jesse, and we may have one more joining us. So stay tuned for more information about that. So ultimately, we want, a lot of questions come up from the folks that we've asked to lead their states. How many meetings will I expect a day, and what will that look like? And am I going to be a lone soldier out there? So ultimately, our goal is that each registrant for Advocacy Day will have a minimum of 3 virtual meetings. The years that I've participated, I typically average about 4 meetings during that day. And so most of the time that's with, your 2 state senators and then 1 or 2 or maybe more, I guess, depending on how you're serving in the day, House of Representatives. And those are going to be more of your local folks based on, specifically more your town or your district. Our goal is to make sure that you will not show up to a meeting alone. And so we're working really hard to make sure that that happens. And so you will be supported. There's always power in numbers. And so if you can bounce it off of a teammate or look over and need to kind of pass the mic to someone else, that will be there for you. Our goal for those meetings are anywhere from 2 to 15 people. Personally, I find it quite easy when you have just 2 folks because it's real easy to know who wants to talk and do what. Sometimes in the larger groups, it can be a little hectic trying to figure out how to get all the voices heard and stories told. But if there's a will, there's a way. And so obviously there may be an opportunity, if you don't love speaking, to maybe sit backseat and support with a smile and maybe an orange t-shirt when you're on camera. But there might be an opportunity for you to speak, and we certainly want to make sure you feel comfortable with that. And again, obviously your state captain, most state captains will have had experience being a state captain, but certainly as an advocate before. And if they haven't, that's okay too. Most likely those folks who maybe not have been an advocate before would have a good bit of industry or legal background, so that this would not be their first time kind of representing for an advocacy day. So Carrie is a master mapper. Say that 3 times fast. But she figured out a way to kind of color code us all to make it easy. So if you are in a green state, you're going to work, with both Brad and Kyla. If you're in a red state, you're going to work with Tiffany and Carrie. If you're in a dark blue state, that would be Jesse and myself. And then obviously we've got yellow with Lisa and Brad. We've got orange with Maya and myself. And then we have Carrie and her to be determined partner in crime, holding up the second color for Carrie in purple. We are still seeking state captains for a few states. If you have some friends and want to give them a nudge, please let us know. We've had a couple new registrants also join for Advocacy Day, so we'll be reaching out to them as well. But obviously, we would love to get some experienced folks to be a state captain. Even if you don't necessarily live in that state, it is possible to state captain in a remote state, particularly if you're a veteran advocate. So we would love to have your participation. Or obviously, if you know a friend, send them our way. So obviously, I'm not sure if you checked your calendars, but tonight is April 16th. So that's where we're at on this timeline. By Thursday, I guess that would be, you'll end up getting a registrants list from your state captain coordinator. And that's going to basically be who's registered for your state. And you'll know which emails, when you have questions, who to direct those to. We will also work to help you coordinate communication. It should be pretty easy. Basically, copy and paste those email address right on into your, to or CC lines, and it'll be quite easy to coordinate all of that. We are asking that by April 28th, so by the end of the month, you've reached out to your advocates, you've coordinated some email coordination, and you've also set up a time to do a practice Zoom. And what we mean by that is, go ahead and meet with one another. Keep in mind, most meetings can be kind of short, so you'll maybe want to aim to have an opportunity for folks to speak, for those who do want to speak, within about a 15-minute window, and kind of start to organize your conversations about why you are choosing to show up for Advocacy Day. What is your why? Why is this important that we're speaking to them? Some folks may have some amazing stories to tell. Some may be joining as an ally, and that's okay too. But we want to always keep in mind and bring forward to our congressmen and women why we're showing up and what they need to know about Resolve and access and awareness. So by May 5th, we are asking you to conduct a practice call. So that, 28th, you're kind of organizing things. By the 5th of May, we're asking you to have done a practice call. And then, of course, May 14th is the day that we're all getting ready for. So that'll be a powerful Tuesday. So prior to Advocacy Day, what we want you all to do as state captains is to connect with your group, go ahead and assign some talking points. We, I think we're still waiting on a little bit of information about scripting on what Resolve wants us to truly focus on for the year. I know in years past, there's been a couple different approaches where we may have specific bullet points that we really need to highlight or specific legislation that's been brought to the floor. We may also want to focus on personal stories. So stay tuned on guidance there. We're going to help as a state captain new advocates feel comfortable, but also maybe understand the flow of the meeting. It's a great opportunity to practice an elevator speech. If you don't know what that is, it's basically what's your 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds if you're going to the top of a high-rise building to be able to grab someone's ear, tell them who you are, and tell them why you're there. My husband always says, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them again what you said. So we're going to also make sure at some point as a state captain that all of our team knows how to log on to the Advocacy Associates platform. I find it super easy to use and very user-friendly, but sometimes new links and new websites can be a little tricky. So you'll want to make sure people know how to do that. By May 7th, we want to email advocacy@resolve.org with any unresponsive advocates. It's very possible you had some folks really get gung-ho and want to advocate, have every intention to advocate, and life happens. So if you do have an unresponsive advocate, don't take it personally, but let's definitely let Resolve know so that they can make sure we don't assign someone meetings and then not have someone show up. And then obviously you'll have our state captain leads as well as the subcommittee leads to lead you along the way. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us so that we can help you if you need to hold any of those meetings or help you with those mock conversations. So on Advocacy Day, I think everyone wakes up bright and shiny. We even have kind of a party to get the day started. For me, I always get I'm like holding my cell phone, waiting for everybody to check in, making sure everyone's on and live and didn't get confused about time zones, because sometimes that happens. But ultimately, the biggest thing you want is to ask your people from your state to text you or email you, maybe call you if that works best for you, by 9:15 local time in your specific time zone to make sure that everybody is logged on, ready to go for the day, and they don't have any questions. You'll also probably quarterback the meeting unless you don't like that role and want to delegate that to someone who maybe wants to quarterback the meeting, but certainly you want to make sure that you're opening up the floor for the conversation, you're introducing who we are, why we're here, and then maybe helping to close that meeting in a timely manner. You will want to join one of the 2 optional morning program kickoff calls just to get your bearings straight. And we'll talk about those calls being super helpful because they can kind of get us guidance if we need last minute cues on things to talk about or what's worked well in the past. And then at the end of the congressional meeting, one of the most important things that you can do to help is to make sure you get contact information from that person you're speaking with. So it might be an email address to follow up with them. It may be a staffer. It may not be the actual congressperson. So you may just want to make sure that you're taking that down and that we're passing that along to Advocacy Associates. So obviously organizing your groups is super important. You will want to kind of understand the difference between a House meeting versus a Senate meeting, and your state captains, you will attend both state meetings. So it's very possible that in your state, you may have some volunteer advocates who are attending some meetings without you, and they might not have a state captain on that call. So you'll want to make sure that you understand how to help organize those people if you can't join it. And then obviously our biggest goal is that no one attends alone. And so if you need any help or you find that something's come up, if you feel that you've been invited to present or speak at meetings that maybe conflict each other, certainly raise your hand earlier on prior to the day so that we can get things reorganized for you. We've kind of talked a little bit about this, but if you are in a large group, a state with a lot of delegates, then you may want to have subgroups within that. And so that's kind of what this is all about. If you're in a small delegation, which I've actually been in both, you may attend all of the meetings with the same people. I remember one day it was just myself and another, and it was like our little party all day long. We kept seeing each other. So, but it worked out well because we knew by the end of the day, we were professionals, we were polished, we were ready to take on the world for our state. So it worked out well. Obviously, we do have some state captain materials. There is an instruction manual, some state delegation script and talking points. We will have a leave behind, so more to follow on that. That has not yet been provided, but we are working on that furiously behind the scenes. We do have the scorecard, which I think I'll turn it over to Andrea to talk a little bit about that. But that's going to be real critical to know where someone stands, who you're talking to, and what they tend to vote towards. And then obviously we have the advocate manual. So you as state captains have the state captain instructional manual, and then your advocates have kind of a little bit different version. It doesn't quite go over everything that yours will.
And just to jump in really quickly, thank you, Noelle. This year, just to quickly say this, we are absolutely closing registration 2 weeks before the event. I don't want state captains to be stressed out, to have any last minute registrants. We have more than enough people registered this year. I will say that we still have some states that have absolutely no registrants. So if we get those types of situations where there's one person that happens to come from this state that has absolutely no one registered, we will more than likely let them register, but we will give the state captain a heads up. It won't be the day before Advocacy Day that this is happening. And at that point, we will give the advocate the necessary information. And if the state captain already has everything sorted out, we might let the advocate know you won't get any speaking parts, but you're just here to be part of the group. So I just wanted to say that first and foremost, and then just to go into the advocate manual a little bit, some of the things that we heard some feedback from, Noelle, Carrie, just our state captains in general, and just our volunteer committee, is that we have a lot of documents floating around. We have a lot of webinars we give people to watch. We have a lot of documents, the do's and the don'ts, the toolkit, all these different materials. And they said it would be really great if we could consolidate it into this one document, this one manual for advocates, that they read it and they get all the information that they need. So that's what we're referencing in this, is that the state captains will get their instructional manual. And this year we will also create a PowerPoint deck that the state captains can use to train their advocates, which might be a lot easier. It'll standardize everything. And it's just to ease that burden of feeling as if you have to create something yourself. It should already just be there. And of course, if you have a very, very small group, maybe it's just 2 people in your state, maybe it's a phone call, you don't need the PowerPoint, but it's at least something you can reference. And if you have a huge delegation, well, then the PowerPoint will come in handy. And you can always customize it based off your state. But again, we're trying to make your job a lot easier in terms of reducing how many documents you have to give the advocates and what you yourself feel like you have to create. So.
Yeah, those are awesome. And I think so many of the veteran advocates, whether you've state captain before or not, will really benefit from pulling that together. I did also want to say, sometimes there might be an assumption that everyone knows how to do a Teams meeting or how to hold a Zoom and how to, do a screen share to present in that. And so I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't say, hey, I don't do this for work, or, this isn't something that I'm good at, or I don't have this skill. That obviously is what we're all here to help you with. So please raise a hand and ask, and we can help everyone set those up and go from there too. So next steps, we're going to just start breaking it down to delegation. So by this week, you'll know who's on your team in your state. You'll kind of start setting up some Zoom meetings. Encourage your delegates as you see those emails come through from Resolve, just kind of double forward it to people. I know it sometimes might clog up an inbox, but you may have a different email address than maybe what Resolve has, or maybe it, just like me, you kind of don't always make it to the top of your inbox each day. So if someone sends it to you later in the day, you might actually open that one easier. So don't be afraid to resend those, and certainly encourage people to join the cram sessions. That will really help with your final talking points and give you a few keywords. It might even help you understand the legislative system a little bit. I know when I started, that was not my forte. I didn't even really understand the difference between, congressperson or House of Representative versus Senate. And so those things really do help. You don't need to feel like you should know these things, but it definitely helps to have someone break it down for you. And obviously, for a state captain, if someone in your delegation cancels, please let us know. You can just shoot us an email and we will, obviously you would email advocacy, but you could also email your regional and we can take care of that for you. All right, so frequently asked questions for state captains to answer. So it is possible that when you get your schedule for the day that you may have some meetings that aren't confirmed. That does happen sometimes. And really you would just want to keep kind of refreshing your schedule and waiting for that to get confirmed for you. What do I do if an advocate lets me know they can no longer attend? Obviously you're going to email resolve. And you can reference, I think this deck will be provided to us all after as well. So you can certainly reference the deck if you forget what that email address is. What do I do if I have technology issues? Text or call your regional leader or state captain and certainly let us know. You can also, the day of, if you're having trouble, reach out to Advocacy Associates, and they would probably be the best for real-time help. But if you feel like, maybe I was going to stay in a hotel and I'm having trouble with the Wi-Fi the night before, or whatever the case may be, or, somehow or another, I know we all have crazy schedules. Maybe you got stuck on a plane. I don't know, but there's things that happen that we don't always expect. Sometimes we have a little more notice than others, but certainly just reach out to us and we'll help you. And then obviously if I enter the call and the staffer's not there, hang out for a few minutes. I typically give them what we used to do in college, the 10-minute rule. But certainly you'd want to, while you're kind of waiting, you can practice and talking. And then you can also email Advocacy Associates and let them know that either someone is late or it doesn't look like they're coming. And then why is my congressional meeting being canceled? I guess it's possible something came up for that office. And so they may need to reschedule or cancel. And, if that does happen and maybe someone pops on real quick and says, I'm sorry, guys, we have to cancel, just make sure you get a follow-up email so that we can forward that along. All right. So I think this is when I get to stop talking.
Great. Well, I'm excited to get to talk about the scorecard, which is another resource that you can give to all of your advocates. I've been leading the work on the scorecard this year and for the past couple of years, along with Georgette, who started this, and then working with Brittany this year. The scorecard has data that goes back about 5 years. I think this is the 6th year of it. So it's a wealth of information. It includes an Excel file that is really dense and is great for those who really want a deep dive. And that's what we call the scorecard. And we'll go through some recommended ways of filtering it and using it to make it less overwhelming. But what it's providing is overall a snapshot of each state's members of Congress, including their district, their party, their support for key legislation, and membership on relevant caucuses and committees. Along with the Excel file, we've also created baseball cards, and those summarize the information for each senator or representative and are a quick and easy look to use. The scorecard can help to answer questions like, where are there opportunities to find new supporters or attract co-sponsors for the bills that have been introduced? What's the role of caucuses in helping to share stories or promote pro-family building legislation? Or how can the leaders or members of a committee influence action on the issues that we care about? And all of that information can be found in the scorecard and will help the advocates to be better prepared to speak and to influence their members of Congress. You can go to the next. I wanted to give you just one example of what the scorecard shows us. This is an example that shows co-sponsorship in the current Congress for at least one bill or resolution that Resolve cares about. And there's a lot of other data that we can generate from the scorecard, and I look forward to sharing more of that with the advocates and with Resolve. But I think this helps to put some context onto what we're doing. You can see that overall, there is still more Democratic support than Republican support, but there's a lot of opportunity for growth in both parties. especially when you look at the House of Representatives. About half of Democrats are supporting at least one bill or resolution, a lot smaller percentage of Republicans. So it can be used as a talking point and just a context for why the work of the advocates is so important in speaking with their legislators. To use the scorecard, if you're looking at the Excel file, and both the Excel file and the baseball cards that I'll talk about next are in the state captain folder ready for you. You can filter it. At the very top of the column, you might choose to filter by state. So there's a little arrow that you can drop down and then select your state. So it will limit what you're seeing only to your particular state. It's currently set up to show only the 118th Congress, but there are little tiny plus signs at the top of some of the columns that will expand it if you really want to get into the data and look at some of the history. If you want to go deeper, look beyond just who is in my state, what are they supporting? You can select more than one filter. Actually, you can go to the next one. The filters build on each other. And so if you select, I want to see all of the delegates, all of the representatives, excuse me, and senators in the state of Connecticut. Well, I only actually want to see the senators. So you can select then to filter and see just the senators in my state. If they're all going to build on each other, so it won't then show you senators for every state. It will just show you starting with the first filter you built and building up. So you can limit down and down and down to see the information you want to see. If you want to clear the filter, you can go to the data tab and select the clear button, or you can go back to the individual filters and uncheck what you have. That's a lot. And for those of you who like to get into the data, it's a wonderful resource and a great place to find just a wealth of information and to look back at history. But we also want to make this really easy for the advocates. And so the other thing that we've created are what we call the baseball cards. It's the scorecard information summarized onto one page for each senator, representative, delegate, and resident commissioner. And it summarizes their record from the 116th Congress when we started collecting this data through the 118th Congress. It includes things like the state and district, party affiliation, previous Advocacy Day participation, support for the bills and legislation, and membership on key committees. So what does it look like? You can go to next. It's a really quick, easy look at what each member of Congress is supporting. So for example, if you're meeting with Representative Brownlee, who is a Democrat from California, you might start by thanking her for her long support and participation in Resolve's Advocacy Day. She's been there since at least 2019. She's also, over the years, you can see in the 116th and 117th Congress, been a co-sponsor or an original sponsor, which means she brought the legislation in the first place of bills that are important to resolve. You might also note that she is a member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, but she's not supporting all of the bills that are relevant to veterans in the 118th Congress. And so you might highlight that to her if you're an advocate speaking with her to say, hey, you might not know about this, but it might be something you're interested in. Some of the scorecards are empty. I just will warn you about that because they're not supporting any of the bills or resolutions that are important to resolve. So don't worry if you see something that largely looks empty. But this is a really quick and easy way for advocates to check and get some information before they go into their meetings and have a little bit more background so they can speak personally to each of the Congress people that they're having meetings with.
All right, thank you, Andrea. We can switch it over to Cassie from the follow-through subcommittee to talk about taking notes on Advocacy Day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassie Wright, co-lead for the follow-through subcommittee. So most of the work that our subcommittee does happens after Advocacy Day and essentially entails keeping advocates engaged, recognizing congressional members for their support, and following up with representatives to make sure they have all of the bill information that they need from us. In order to do our job well, we are hoping to enlist the help of the state captains and their teams to ensure that we have accurate contact information for representatives, as well as information regarding their positions on bills so that we can properly follow up with them after Advocacy Day. So we're hoping that you can help us with two things. Number one, stress to advocates the importance of completing the feedback forms after the meetings. And then two, assuming you have enough advocates in your group, so this will obviously vary, but if you do, assigning a note taker role in the group in advance. So ideally, this role would be great for someone who doesn't have a speaking role because there's not enough, or who maybe wants to be involved but doesn't want a speaking role. Assigning a note taker so that that person can make sure all of the questions on the feedback forms are as thorough as they can possibly be. We are aiming to share a copy of those meeting report forms prior to Advocacy Day so that the advocates and the note taker can have access to it for note-taking purposes on Advocacy Day. And so again, hoping that you can just help us by letting advocates know the importance of the forms, and then again, if possible, assigning a note taker who could kind of be in charge of making sure those forms are thoroughly completed. Effectively, the questions on the forms have to deal with getting the representative's name and contact information, the name of the staffer in the meeting, and then how the office or staffer responded to each bill and each topic that we are presenting.
And just to jump in, so this is a screenshot of my portal when I did Minnesota Advocacy Day. And I think most of you already know what this looks like when Advocacy Associates sends you that email that says you can click and either download the app and do it that way or go through the web portal. There's this section when you click on the legislator. When you click on the day, it says Wednesday, February 14th, it'll click on it'll show you a list of the legislators, and when you click on them, then Michelle, you can go to the next page. It'll take you to this section. When you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see where it says meeting report form and meeting notes. And I'll say, based off what Cassie said, this year in the script, we're actually going to have one section that says the note taker. So typically in our scripts in past years, it said like military and veterans or like this specific bill, and then there's a blank line, and you could fill in who's going to be speaking in that role. And this year we're going to specifically add a note taker. So specifically, we really want people filling in the meeting report forms. I've confirmed with Advocacy Associates that you'll be able to open up that report form during meetings, and it'll be really helpful because sometimes people just don't have the time or they don't remember after the meeting what actually occurred. And last year we also got some notes, but it would be just good to centralize this, make it more efficient, where every meeting there's a specified note taker so that we're getting a lot of feedback. We do use that feedback. We do contact certain legislators to say, you showed an interest last year with some of our advocates. This new bill is coming out. Do you want to be a co-sponsor? So it is very, very important. And just going off what Cassie already said, this year, we're trying to make the notes a lot more efficient. Last year, we noticed there were certain topics that kept coming up that legislators were interested in. So we're trying to make the notes a lot clearer for people so that when they're filling it in, they don't have to either write a whole paragraph or just write one sentence and move on, but it's a lot clearer what the expectations are for the notes. All right, time for Q&A. We made great time, actually, everyone. That was amazing. I don't think that's ever happened before. So we already had one question. I'm not sure if everyone saw. Someone asked, how long is each meeting? Julie Eshelman responded, our co-chair. Each of the meetings on average, they're about 10 to 15 minutes long. So they're not that long. Don't be surprised. Sometimes there are some meetings where maybe the legislator or the staff member is the one that's in the meeting, and the meeting goes way longer than that. And then just for everyone to know, sometimes you might not be meeting with the senator or the representative. You might be speaking with the staff member, but they are just as important. And it's good to still maintain that professionalism. And you never know, we've had a lot of staff members say, we know someone who's experienced this, or we've used IVF, or they have their own story. And so they really have a lot of push in speaking with their senator or their representative to get them to support the bill. The next question is what time? Oh, sorry. Will we get a list or access to all of the meetings in the state? I know that many get confirmed last minute. If so, where will we see this information? So this year, like I said, because we're closing registration 2 weeks ahead, hopefully we're not getting any confirmations last minute. I really want everything to be completed and done by the end of this month. There really should be no additional things happening. And as soon as we get our list of meetings, we will be sending that to the state captains. I know last year I had a couple of state captains reach out and say, can you give me a list of meetings in their state? And we weren't aware that state captains didn't automatically get that. So that's something that's on our task list this year, is that every state captain gets all of the meetings for all of their delegates this year. What time zones are the cram sessions? The cram session, we're having it only one time this year. It will be, I believe it will be it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern time, the day before Advocacy Day. So on the 13th, it will be webinar style. It will be recorded. So if there's any questions anyone has, they can jump in there. Also, if you aren't able to make it, you can always send us that question at advocacyday@resolve.org. We will absolutely answer. Or as a state captain, you can contact your regional coordinator and they can always answer those questions. The next one is, will the information shared tonight be sent out to us in a follow-up email as well? Absolutely. We are recording this webinar right now, so we will be sending this to you. We're still completing our state captain manual. I will say that this year was a little crazy for us. It seemed like things would be okay, and then Alabama happened, and that just threw us all off. But we're trying to finalize everything hopefully this week. So my goal is that early next week you have your manual, you have this PowerPoint, you have the scorecards, the baseball cards, you have your PowerPoint to train your delegates, and you also have the advocate manual for you to use. So even if you haven't planned or even reached out to your delegates, I want that information to be in your hands. Next question is, should there just be one note taker? Last year, I found that the people really varied in the content and thoroughness of the notes. That's a really, really good question.
Yeah, I'll hop in
Carrie,
on that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's recommended as a best practice. If you've got someone that really their task is to get the notes, to get the email address for the staff members who you spoke to and get that in there, that is a fantastic best practice. We would rather have everybody put in notes than no one put in notes, though. So if you don't have someone specifically designated, or you have a smaller group where you're multitasking, then multiple people can put in there. That's an excellent point, though. It does vary greatly based on everybody's particular style.
Thank you. The next question is, will we be seeing the bills, resolutions, and our packets? If you're talking about the leave behind, which has the list of bills that we're advocating for, absolutely, that will be included. It's also uploaded. Michelle, if you could go to the previous slide. It will also be on the Advocacy Associates website. So when you log in for your meetings, you see your meeting report, meeting notes. We typically have that leave behind uploaded there as well digitally. But yes, you will absolutely get that. It's taking us a bit longer for that one as well, just because there is a couple of things up in the air. Some of the bills might be introduced unfortunately a lot closer to Advocacy Day, but I promise you behind the scenes, as soon as I'm getting things, I'm trying to get them finalized, get them to our creative department to make them look professional. So we're working as fast as we can to get those out as well. Next question, is it recommended we host 2 Zoom prep sessions for advocates, especially if we are in a state with a large group? I'll turn that over to the state captain leads.
Yeah. So one is the minimum. If you do want to do multiple ones, especially if you can divide into your geographic districts, absolutely you can there. So I know in Florida, we have a tendency to group with Tampa or Central Florida versus South Florida there. So one is the minimum. If you have the capacity or desire to do more, you're absolutely able to.
Let me see. Someone said, I never received a registration link to get access to the site being shared. How do I get access? Stephanie, are you talking about the Advocacy Associates website?
Yes, the site that you were just showing, and you had some of the screenshots for.
Yes, so no one has gotten access to it. I don't even have,
okay.
I mean, I see the back end of it, but no one has gotten it, not even me. So
Okay.
it's because we've just been sending out the meeting requests to the Congress people right now. So more than likely, it'll be the end of this month that everyone will get it. And like I said, our aim is also to send, because state captains, you'll just see your meetings, but we're trying to make it so that you get all of the meetings for, and that's something we'll figure out. I don't want it to be like you log in and you see 20 meetings because it's meetings for all of your delegates, but we might just send you like a PDF or an Excel that shows you all of your delegates meetings. So we'll definitely get that to you.
Awesome.
Let's see. Can you provide us examples of previous calls for us to watch? Nicole, are you referencing like a state, like how a meeting would go when a state captain is training their advocates?
Just an example of what actually happens on Advocacy Day, where we could actually watch a call from previous years to kind of get a feel for the way it should flow into these meetings as far as time, content, and just how it looks, so that when we do get for me, for example, it's my first year. When I get my feet wet, I want to make sure I have my boots on at the same time.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So the prior calls aren't recorded. That's usually at the discretion of the congressional or offices, and generally they don't approve them to be recorded. But now that we have the manual over to resolve and we've done this training, the state captain committee, we're able to do some mock interviews. Also, the script will go through. We're going to start here. We're going to go there, and then we can give some live examples or some mock examples. But it doesn't always go according to script, and that's not always a bad thing. I know last year I was sitting in for Kansas, and we had our script. We were ready to go. But the person that we spoke to was so passionate about the cause that she just completely took over the conversation. So we didn't hit anything on the script, but it was very productive because she was definitely in support of all of our initiatives and offered to connect us to more people.
For sure. And also in terms of examples of like what that elevator pitch that Noel talked about earlier, what it looks like, we will have that in the advocate manual, a couple of examples, different types, like if you're a provider or military and veterans, just different types of pitches. And it's also on our website. If you go to Advocacy Day, no, resolve.org/advocacy day. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a lot of videos we've uploaded of people showing you what their pitch looks like. So you could also always watch that. But like Carrie said, sometimes you don't always know what it will look like when you go into the meeting. But I've been in a lot of them so far, and it's a great experience. Even if you're getting pushback from the congressperson, it's a great feeling to just go in there and say, okay, I advocated for myself, I advocated for my community, and especially as a state captain, to know that you're the person that really helped organize this and make it happen.
I think the only thing that I'll chime in and say is just, you're talking to a real person. And so I think sometimes all of our trainings and all of our manuals and our PowerPoints make us come from a place of it has to be super formal and rigid. And I don't think that always is the case. I think sometimes, obviously, when you're having a difficult conversation or maybe a conversation with some resistance, that can lend itself to maybe being a little bit more formal. But you can always, if you're needing to catch a breath or you're needing to kind of open the floor, start with a question like, "What do you know about fertility?" Or have you been seeing a lot of this legislation or news or stories about, say, Alabama, and what does that bring up for you? If you open up the floor with kind of a way to get them talking for even just a minute, that may allow you to kind of gain your composure and feel good about where to take it from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Noelle. And Kelly also offered new state captains who'd like to talk to a veteran. She's happy to help. So she's in that chat. She's offered her Gmail. So that's just amazing. Thank you so much, Kelly. Let's see. Yes, bummer on us not being able to record. Like Carrie said, honestly, sometimes we say if you can get a picture with them, with the staff member or with your congressperson, and honestly, even for that, sometimes they'll say no. So that's just something to be aware of, is that they're very careful sometimes in some offices about people recording things or taking pictures or anything. And sometimes they might not even their camera might not even be on for some of the meetings, to be honest. So that's just, again, something to be aware of. Any other questions? Okay, like I said, if anyone else has any questions, you can always contact the co-leads, you can contact Resolve. Again, we're trying to get everything solidified, and registration will be closed the end of this month. You'll get your list of advocates, their meetings, all of that. So that's something we're working on. Let's see, next slide. And then just to finish this off, I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to our sponsors, our champion sponsors this year: Ferring Pharmaceuticals, EMD Serono, our Changemaker sponsors, Organon, CCRM Fertility, Kind Body, US Fertility, Boston IVF. And lastly, our presenting sponsor this year will be First Fertility. So again, thank you so much to all of them. We really would not be able to do what we're doing this year and all the past years without our sponsors. Next slide. Just regular information about follow us, tag us on Advocacy Day, especially that day itself when you're wearing orange and you're posting it on social media. Please tag us. Our comms team is amazing. They love all of those things. We can repost those images using hashtags, anything. It's really great. Next. And last but not least, NIAW will be at the end of this month, so make sure you rock your orange. If you're interested in anything regarding getting a proclamation, definitely contact Resolve. We can walk you through that. But use the hashtags, take the pictures, post it on social media. Yes, get pets in orange too. Yes, but get everyone involved. And I think that's it. Carrie, Brad, Noelle, do you have anything lastly to add?
Just one last thank you to everybody from our returning state captains and folks that have been here before that are mentoring others and sharing best practices, to our brand new state captains who are stepping into this role. Brad, Noelle, and I are here for you every step of the way, as well as your regional coordinators. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any question. Thanks again to the scorecard committee. That is a tremendous amount of data, and it is so, so helpful. Someone last year had the great idea of the baseball cards, but to see those together when you have your meetings of, this is who I'm meeting with, this is where their interests lie, makes a really, really great connection point with them. Because as Noelle said, These are real humans that we're speaking to there, and the staffers a lot of times are the ones who are really directing their congressperson or senator in where they're going to go and where their interests are. So thank you all so very much. Brad, Noel?
Sure. I just want to thank everybody for being here, and just want to say, especially for the first time captains, especially if you've never been on this type of forum before, the only thing you can really do wrong is not to participate. So it can be really scary to be involved and talking to somebody who's really important, who makes life or death decisions for the world. I mean, it's pretty intimidating, but it's such a great feeling to finish the process knowing that you've spoken up for the cause that you truly believe in. So no matter, even if you just totally lose it on the day of, you will make a difference because you participated, and everybody will do a great job.
Yeah, I will just say, you know, tears happen. You stumble on your words. You know, you think maybe something didn't land with that person, and lo and behold, the follow-up committee is able to make some communication and stay in contact and maybe progress some things forward. So again, you're not alone. We're here to support. You won't be in the room alone. And like Brad said, like there's really not anything that you can mess up so long as you show up and give it a try and not take yourself too seriously. I think we will have a pretty impactful year.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Kara, you asked about the t-shirts. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So for anyone that's interested, I'm going to put it in the chat right now so you can order ahead, but we will also include that in follow-up emails as well. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Carrie, Brad, and Noel, for putting all of this together and getting all of our state captains this year.